بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وقدوتنا محمد عليه أفضل الصلاة وأزكى التسليم اللهم علمنا بما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا رب العالمين. Welcome everybody. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah to beginning. Welcome to beginning classical Arabic. We have some new and exciting material for this evening, inshallah. So let's get right to it. Last class was a lengthy review session, and I hope everybody's fresh and limber for learning one new concept and a lot of new vocabulary. So all of this time, since the beginning of the book, we have been dealing with masculine nouns, with the exception of our little foray into feminine names, right? However, now we're going to explore the world of feminine nouns because in Arabic, unlike in English, nouns have gender. So that's going to change everything. Not dramatically, but it's going to change everything. That means even our demonstrative pronouns, right, like this and that, are going to change. Our endings are going to change of the words, and so on and so forth. So we're going to look at how those changes happen in Arabic. For the first, I'm going to be picking two people per, let's say, paragraph or image, okay? And you all can, you'll have an opportunity to read, and we'll work on correcting our reading. If there's any vocab needed to be done, I'll type it in here, inshallah. As always, you can take a screenshot. That's probably the most time efficient way to capture what I write. So could Brother Muhammad and Brother Sa'ir, Muhammad Mu'tasim, you read the first image. One of you take, whoever I mention first, you read the first line. Whoever I mention second, you read the second line.
Okay, I'll take the first one.
Okay.
Haza ibn Hamidin wa hazihi bintu Yasirin.
MashaAllah. Good job. I didn't hear exactly if he did this, but oh, I'm sorry. Here, Sa'id, finish the second one. Brother Sa'id, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was talking while I was on mute. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ibn Hamidin jalisun wa bintun وبنت يسار واقفة.
MashaAllah. Good. Okay, so let's point out a couple things here with both of these. First of all, we notice they're testing us on how we're going to read the Hamzatul Wasl. This is one of the lessons we had last class. So we said that the Hamzatul Wasl, we pronounce it if it's the beginning of what we're saying, and we don't if it's in the middle of what we're saying. So for example, here we have a Hamzatul Wasl, that nice big fat sod right above it, in Ibn. However, that's not the first word we're reading. We're reading hadha. So what we need to do is join these two words together in our reading. Hadhabnu. Hadhabnu. That's the correct way to read it. And then here we have ibnu. Ibnu, because we're starting with that Hamzatul Wasl. Why does it have a kasra? We explained that before. Because it is a noun that does not start with an alif lam. Now, the first line was read very well. Brother Muhammad, can you translate that for us?
Okay. this boy, this Ibnu, or Ibnu, this boy, this boy Hamid, and this, and that daughter, Yasir bint.
Okay, good. If you
Right.
knew that this is daughter of Yasir, then what is Ibnu Hamidin? It's the who?
Son.
Son. Aywa, there you go. Okay. So what do we have here? We have this is Hamid's son. There he is right there. MashaAllah. And this is Yasir's daughter. Literally, this is the son of Hamid, and this is the daughter of Yasir. Okay, the only thing that's new here is hadihi. Hadihi is the feminine form of this. So both hada and hadihi mean this. However, hada is only for masculine nouns. Hada kitabun. Hada ibnu Hamidin. Whereas hadihi is for feminine nouns. Bintu Yasirin, Yasir's daughter, or we'll get into others, Sayara, or others. We'll see that soon. Now, when we ran into the second one, okay, we have Ibnu Hamidin Jalisun. Brother Sa'ar, he read that correctly. And then he struggled with the second half, which is no problem. Everybody has a struggle. But we're going to ask him to translate it, and we're going to see how understanding what's going on enables us to read it correctly. So, Brother Sa'ar, translate.
Okay, so the first one is the son of Hamid is sitting,
Yes, good.
and his sister. No, Wabint, yeah, and his sister. Sayar, I forgot what Sayar means again. Sayar, I think it's a car, right? And his sister is driving.
Okay, good. So check out, it's talking about the same people. We have Ibnu Hamid. But look at how they took away the harakat from it, right? So up here we have Bintu Yasirin, and it meant Yasir's daughter. Literally, the daughter of Yasir. Bint means daughter. Literally girl, but figuratively daughter. Wa bintu, what we need to do here is identify what we're saying. Bintu Yasirin. Right? Waqifatun. And then we can figure out what waqifa means. But if you missed bintun, if you put bintun or something else, the meaning of the sentence is all confused. Bintu Yasirin, it's the same possessive construction that's up here. What's going on with the sentences? This is actually perfect for us because both of these sentences are jumla ismi, okay? They are nounal sentences, nominal sentences begin with nouns. Up here, we have the mubtada is hada. What are we saying? The subject we're talking about is this. What do we want to say about the subject? We want to say is the son of Hamid, right? So you see how that sentence breaks down. This is the son of Hamid. Is always where? The mubtada and the khabar split, subject and predicate. But the second round of sentences are a little bit different. Now what we have, what's the subject? The subject is the mudaf ilayh, the possessive construction. Ibnu Hamidin is our subject. What do we want to say about Ibnu Hamidin? He is jalisun. He is sitting. What's the opposite of sitting? Look, she's right there. That's what she's doing. Waqifatun. Wa bintu Yasirin waqifatun. So if you forgot, because we only used, I think, waqifa once. Waqifa means standing. Now notice here, there's a difference between jalisun and waqifatun. Waqifatun has a ta marbuta because it needs to match the feminine subject. Yes. This ta marbuta here is an addition because we're talking about the feminine. Jalisun is masculine. If we were talking about a woman or a girl, something feminine, sitting, it would become jalisatun. It would have a ta marbuta. The ta marbuta is the difference between the masculine form of a noun and the feminine form of a noun. Anybody have any questions about this particular example, these two sentences?
No.
Okay. Anybody who has any questions, you can shoot it in the text. Yes.
Just one question. When you make the fa'il, when you make it feminine, then the second, like the letter before the ta marbuta is always maftuh.
Very good. Waqifatun. Yes. Jalisatun, waqifatun. I'll have to look that up to confirm if it's 100% all of the time, but I can't think of an example off the top of my head right now where it's not that way. That's a very good question. What she's saying, what our sister Masarrat is saying is that Jalisun ends with a ta marbuta because it is the predicate, it's the khabar, okay? But if it were feminine, if, for example, we were talking about a feminine subject, how we know that the two dhammas, the tanween, would go over the ta. How do we know what happens to the scene? Over here with waqifa, it became fatha. Is it always going to be fatha? It strikes me as yes, but I would need to look that up. Short answer is I don't know. Great question. Okay, next two people, Sister Masarrat and Sister Saman, if you could do the next picture. There's 4 lines, but it's a back and forth.
من هذه
Oh, okay. هذا أخت المهندس.
أهي أيضا مهندسة؟
لا هي طبيبة.
Fantastic, great job. Both of you now translate. We do the same thing, but translate it to English.
Who is this?
This is the sister of al-Muhandisi.
Good, very good. The important thing is you recognize that that's a possessive construction. Vocab is vocab. Muhandis means an engineer.
Okay.
So, yes.
Is she also an engineer?
No, she is a doctor.
Yeah, mashallah. Fantastic, excellent. So look at how our sister noticed that ukhtul muhandisi was a possessive construction. Even if she didn't know what muhandis was, she was able to put together that it's the sister of something. It's easy to learn the words and to go back and to plug that in, no problem. Ukhtul muhandisi is the sister of the engineer. Notice that we're not told explicitly whether she's the sister, like who's the engineer here? Is it a brother of hers or is it a sister of hers? But we can tell from the word al-muhandisi that it's a brother. Because if it were a sister, it would have been with a ta marbuta, as in the next line. Ahiya aydan muhandisatun? Is she also an engineer? And the answer is no. So we see that if we have a noun, okay, if we have Muslim, for example, how do we make it feminine? We add a ta marbuta. Muslima, for our purposes, muslimatu. Muhandis, engineer. Muhandisatu, right? Tabib, feminine, tabibatun, and so on and so forth. The ta marbuta is the sign of it being feminine, and that's what we're leaning on heavily when it comes to making nouns feminine. Okay, we'll continue. Next two examples. Let's go to the Shahada family. Will the two of you tackle the next example?
سيارة من هذه.
هذه سيارة المديرة.
Yes, and mudiri. All right, now I'm gonna pick
Whose car is this?
This is the principal's car.
excellent. Yes, 100%. So, how did you know, by the way, 100% completely correct. How did you know to put a dhamma right here on the end of sayara?
I don't know for sure.
مضاف إليه.
Honesty is the best policy. Yeah. Okay, so okay, let's back up. Let's back up. What type of sentence is this? Someone from the Shahada family.
جملة اسمية.
Jumla ismiya. Good. That's step 2. We know the parts of Jumla ismiya. Mubtada, khabar, subject, predicate. Tell me, where is the mubtada?
سيارة.
Oh,
سيارة.
okay. Good. Do you agree with her?
Or is it asking whose car is it? So who is the mubtada?
Yes, good. So let's think. What's the mubtada? The mubtada is the thing that we're talking about, and the khabar is going to be the information that we're giving about that thing. So, هذه, this سيارة المدير is the principal's car. What's the thing that we're trying to talk about?
The car.
The car, and how are we referring to it? Are we referring to it directly, or are we pointing to it or saying this?
معروفة. It's very specific. This particular car, whose car is this car?
Exactly. So what we're doing is we're giving information about what this is, right? So our mubtada is going to be hadihi. Imagine that you were pointing. You're pointing at this red car. You say this ... is the principal's car. You're establishing what you're talking about when you're pointing this. And then everything else that comes after is information about what this is. Like, okay, this, what about it? What do you want to tell me about this? Oh, you want to tell me what it is. Ah, I see. It is the principal's car. That's the information, and so that's the khabar. What's the default grammatical position of the khabar? Is it marfu'? Is it mansub? Is it majroor?
مرفوع.
Yeah, it's marfu'. And that's why sayaratu is sayaratu with the dhamma. Because mubtada, it's marfu' and the khabar is marfu'. The only reason that al-mudir is changed is because it's part of the possessive construction.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Or is it not? Or is that not clear?
So, and then that's why there's the kasra under the mudir, is because it's possessive.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's possessed, or I should say, it's possessing the car.
Okay.
Great job. Okay. Technically, we had an answer possessive construction in the came in the chat. Technically not, because the first part of the possessive construction, it can be with a dhamma, with a fatha, with a kasra. It's not necessary that it has a dhamma. The only reason this has a dhamma is because it is the predicate. It's the khabar. Good. Sayyid family, can you do the next one?
ما هذه؟
هذه مكواة.
And I don't know if anybody still uses irons, but yes, this is an iron. And mikwatun is an iron, feminine noun, which is why we're using هذه. That's obvious enough to not need a translation, I think. Good job. So if everybody's got that, I will clear it off. And
If I could ask, what makes a michwa feminine? Is it only is it more of a, I don't know, it's odd because it's an inanimate object. It's not male, feminine or masculine. Or is it because of who uses it?
no. Alhamdulillah, that's not that reason. We'd be in trouble if it was that reason. It's
That's what I'm saying.
it's the ta marbuta. In short, if you go deep, if you want to go deep into nahu, there are different reasons for things being considered feminine. There's femininity bil ma'na and there's femininity bil lugha or lughatan. Okay, this is one of those words. Any word with a ta marbuta, except for extreme examples, which I can't even think off the top of my head an example of a masculine word with a ta marbuta. Even Hamza, okay? Even the name Hamza, linguistically, even though it is for a male, it is the feminine form of a word. So ta marbuta is the exclusive domain of feminine nouns, right? So the ta marbuta is what makes it feminine. So we match the form of hada to that and make it hadihi. That's a good question though. If you're used to thinking in English, gendered nouns don't translate. They don't make sense. Because in English we have it. We have this nice third gender neutral noun, it, for anything under the sun. In Arabic, there is no it, right? And so everything has to pick a side. You have to get a gender, one way or another. And anything with a ta marbuta, that's a sure sign of it being feminine. Yes, Talha, Ubaydah, yes, those words too are linguistically feminine. And they affect certain things that we'll get into later. Excellent work, everybody. Back up to the top. Let's go to the next example. Brother Muhammad and Brother Sa'i. Again.
لمن هذا هذه.
Good. هذه is fixed. It's mabni. It's never going to change. It's always هذه. Good. And what's the response, Brother Sa'i?
هذه لخالد.
Good, mashallah. This is our first exposure to this lam. This is known in Arabic as lam al-milkiyah, if you want to know the correct term. In translation, this is called the possessive lam. Possessive lam. What is the definition of a possessive lam? It is a lam with a kasra that comes before a noun. Lam with a kasra that comes before a noun. What does it do? It questions whose. To whom does this belong? Okay. So we learned previously, remember when we were doing examples, qalamu man hadha, whose pen is this? We have now another way to say the same thing. Liman, to whom does this belong? Right? A little bit different. The first way uses a possessive construction, qalamu man, whose pen is this? Whereas liman hadihi means to whom does this belong?
I have a question. Yeah. So the reason we are using hazi, which is feminine, is because the bag is feminine.
Yes,
Is it right? Okay.
Yes, great point. Thank you so much for bringing it up. You could look at the sentence and you're like, what is going on here? Khalid is there, and Khalid is a man. What are we talking about? But we're talking about haqiba. Haqiba. And haqibatun has a ta marbuta at the end. And so haqibatun is a feminine noun. And so we need to talk about that feminine noun with feminine pronouns. Hadihi isn't talking about Khalid. Hadihi is talking about this very nice satchel. Who does it belong to? It belongs to Khalid, and we can tell now that lam is also a preposition. It makes what comes after it majroor with a kasra, why we see li Khalidin. When do we say hada and when do we say hadihi? That depends on whether the noun is masculine or feminine. Hada is for masculine, hadihi is for feminine. If I had a book right here, here's my book. I'm a terrible drawer, by the way. That's supposed to be a book. There's a tree on it. I like trees. It's a book about trees. If I were to say the exact same question about this book, I would say liman hada, because book in Arabic, only Allah knows why, is a masculine noun. I'll give you a hint how you can tell why, because it doesn't have ta marbuta. However, haqiba, our bag here, ends with a ta marbuta. Therefore, it is a feminine noun. Oops. Yeah, that's right. And since it's a feminine noun, if we're going to refer to it with a demonstrative pronoun, we need to say hadihi. Liman hadihi. Hadihi li Khalidin. Anyone, any questions about hada hadihi or the lam?
If I could ask a quick question. So are there some items that are distinctly either masculine or feminine, and other ones where you can change how you ask about it and define whether it's masculine or feminine? Because it's kind of confusing, because if there is one that you can change and there is one that you can't, reading the sentence, you'd never be able to differentiate.
Yes, very good. When it comes to what we call in English inanimate objects, right? Book, pen, sheet of paper, camera, all these sorts of things, they are fixed. It is either going to be masculine or it's either going to be feminine. Okay? When it comes to things that refer to people, recall what we had just a minute ago with al-muhandis, al-muhandisa. What we have is a masculine and a feminine form. It's flexible to accommodate whoever might be an engineer, right? In English, we would say, like, for example, we have a waiter and a waitress, right? And this is more prominent in Romance languages such as Italian and I believe Spanish as well, where they have dottore and dottoressa, right? You have like a form that's specific for the male version of that occupation, and a female or a feminine form for that version of the occupation. You can think about that as translating well to Arabic with the al-muhandis and al-muhandisa with the ta marbuta. But the problem that you raise, and this is the problem, you're right, for an Arabic learner, somebody who doesn't already know the gender of non-human nouns, there's no way to tell except by learning it. Before I told you that kitab was masculine, if you walked up to somebody and you could say, liman hadihi, and you're talking about a book, they wouldn't necessarily look at you funny, but anybody who knows a bit of Arabic grammar would correct you and say, no, this is hada. You wouldn't say hadihi for it. So for Arabic learners, the only way is to kind of memorize them. You get the hint with what has a ta marbuta and what doesn't. But your question brings up that point, and that's a good point. Anybody else with any questions about either the hada, hadihi, or the li, the possessive lam?
One question, or maybe a couple. Liman hadihi, but if we just say man hadihi, then we don't have to say hadihi Khalidin?
Oh, good, good, good.
Her.
So, what's the difference between liman hadihi and men hadihi? Men hadihi is asking a different question entirely. Men by itself means who, right? So if we say men hadihi, it means who is this, and we're gesturing towards a female. If we say hadihi, we're saying that basically we know that this is a female or feminine if we're talking about a non-adamant object. And we're asking the identity of it. Who is this? Liman, since the lam is possessive lam, it becomes whose is this? And so as for whose, the person possessing that thing can be masculine or feminine, doesn't matter. In this case, it's masculine, it's khalid. Because the gender refers to the this, which is a haqiba, a bag in Arabic. However, if you had asked men hadihi, the answer could never have been Khalid, because Khalid is not hadihi, Khalid is hada, right? So men is asking about the identity of a person. Liman is asking who owns this or who possesses this. The this, however, is referring to something different in both cases. Does that make sense?
One more question that I should have asked on first module. So growing up, we read about ha-zihi. Now we are more focused on ha-dihi. What's the difference? Zihi and dihi, like when we say it, like.
What's the difference between ha-dihi and ha-zihi? Is that your question?
Yes, like pronunciation, like some people say it like more like a Z sound on ha-zihi. And some people say it more like ha-dihi. More like it.
Thank you for asking this question, because I like to sneak in tajweed lessons in my Arabic. Ha-zihi is wrong. that's the simple answer. The correct pronunciation of the letter is the, the, thu. By sticking out your tongue is actually coming in between your two rows of teeth. The. So ha-zihi is an incorrect pronunciation of this letter. Prominent in some places in the Muslim world, even in the Arab world, even in Egypt, for example, you find the street pronunciation to be za, hazihi. And I think in the subcontinent as well, from what I gather, it's a very common way of pronouncing it. But when it comes to tajweed and when it comes to Arabic, it's not correct. It's not there are some variations that are acceptable, but that one isn't one of them. That's a mispronunciation of the word that. Yes, question.
So when we learned the possessive construction, you said that there's only one way, right? Like that there's only the of way. So Prophet of Allah, and you know how in English there are two. But this possessive lam, so this is actually not a possessive construction, even though it does the same thing. And like, wouldn't this be the equivalent of saying apostrophe?
That's interesting. You know, I never thought about that before. How did he call it? This
because grammatically it's doing the same thing, right? It's making the next word majroor.
Yes, it is making the next word majroor. It is talking about possession.
But a preposition would also do that.
Yes, it would.
So I'm just trying to understand.
You're right. That's a nice way to think about it, and that's a useful way to think about it. The only place where the analogy doesn't hold is the order, because in English the apostrophe is a marker on the end of the word, whereas li in Arabic is in front of the word. But other than that, that's a useful way of thinking about it. Honestly, that never occurred to me. So you can think about li as kind of like the apostrophe. Li Khalidin, Khalid.
But grammatically, it's a preposition.
Grammatically, it's a preposition. Yes, which is an important difference in Arabic grammar, because lam is a harf jar, right? Something that makes what comes after it majroor. Whereas before, how do we make a possessive construction? We make it with a noun, a full-on word, right? Plus another noun. And the only thing that makes it this one with two kasra, or with a kasra majroor, is the relationship of possession. So there is that difference. You're right, but that's useful to think about it that way. I never thought about it that way. Excellent. Any other questions?
If I could ask a quick one about the handbag.
Yes.
Is it that we use the ta marbuta before Khalidun because the item is feminine, not because we're speaking about a feminine person? So if you're talking about a feminine item like the, what did they call it, the iron earlier, no matter what, even if it belonged to Hamza, Muhammad, whatever, it's the item that specifies in, but that's the issue too, because if you don't know the item in Arabic, you're going to assume.
Yes.
Okay, it's kind of confusing, but I'm trying to wrap my brain fully around.
You know what's worse is that in fiqh books, okay, it's like intro level fiqh books, they're called mukhtasarat, like they're like summaries. And in order to save space, what the jurists did was that they just used pronouns for everything. And so if the thing that he talked about on the last page was masculine and the second thing he talked about was feminine, he's only going to give you the pronouns. Like he's going to keep on using the pronouns to refer back, and he's going to assume that you know what he meant because one of them is masculine, one of them is feminine. So in Arabic, it is different, and even I would say more difficult to keep track of what writers and speakers are saying when they use pronouns, because the added foil of differentiating based off of gender enables them to assume that you know what they're talking about, when folks like you and I have already forgotten what they're saying. But you're right, 100%. It's always hadihi means it's referring back to a feminine object, a feminine noun. Has nothing to do with the gender of who is actually possessing it. Good. Anyone, any questions before we move on to the next example with this lovely bouquet of flowers? Okay, good. I think we've reached Sister Saman and Sister Masarrat.
So I guess someone's going first.
Either way, your choice.
Okay. الدرجات أنس هذه.
لا، هذه دراجة عمار. هذه جديدة.
ودراجة أنس قديمة.
Very good. Take a stab at translating this. I'm writing in some of the vocab as we go.
Okay. Is this the bike of Anas?
Yeah, good.
No, this is Ammar's bike. This is it is new. This is new.
The bike of Anas is old.
Yes, very good. Technically, this whole line, even though they broke it up, is all supposed to be like one sentence, right? But it doesn't matter. I'm glad that you switched off. So
Yeah, I figured it out, but then I thought that it wouldn't be a fair division. That's why I stopped.
Right. So it was very egalitarian to split it up again. But yes, this is all one thought. So the ad-darajatu, so daraja is, daraja means stairs. So daraja is like, it's almost like it's like a stairmaster, right? Like you're pedaling on a bike. Daraja is bicycle. We have the hamza in the beginning, which is asking a yes or no question. Ad-darajatu anasin, we can tell that this is a possessive construction. Darajatu, because daraja has no alif lam and it has no tanween. Anasin is majroor because it's the mudaf ilay, it's the possessor. Ad-darajatu anasin hadihi, is this Anas's bike? Is this the bike of Anas? The answer, la, no. Hadihi darajatu Ammarin, this is Ammar's bicycle. Hadihi jadidatun wa darajatu Anasin qadimatun. This one, we would say colloquially, this one is new, whereas Anas's bike is old. Jadid and qadim mean new and old respectively. And notice how they match the gender of what we're talking about. Because it's hadihi, we add a ta marbuta on the end. Hadihi jadidatun wa darajatu anasin qadimatun. Very good. Okay. And then we have an isolated example down here. Someone from the Shahada family, could you tell us about the watch?
هذه ساعة علي. هي جميلة جدا.
Good, very good. Translate that for us.
This is Ali's watch. It's very beautiful.
MashaAllah. Very good. Jiddan is a new word for us, I think. I don't think it's come yet, which is very. Very, which makes it an adverb. We haven't learned the grammar of adverbs yet. That will come later. Right now, just memorize jiddan and notice that jiddan does not change according to gender. Right? It's jiddan whether it's jamil for a masculine thing or jiddan whether it's feminine. In this case, jamilatun. Adverbs do not change gender as opposed to adjectives, but we'll get into that more later. Good. 2 sentences, very easy. Both of them are jumla ismiya. هذه is our mubtada. ساعة علي is our khabar. Because this is our khabar, ساعة has a dhamma, and it only has one dhamma because it's possessed by Ali, and Ali has 2 kasras, aliyin. Same thing here. Hiya jamilatun jiddan. Hiya is the mubtada. Jamilatun jiddan is the khabar. Jamilatun, because the default position of khabar is that it's marfu', it is with a dhamma, and jiddan is fixed. It's an adverb and it has different grammar, which we'll learn later. Anybody have any questions on these exercises before we either move on or wrap it up? We'll see how much we have left.
I have a random question. Why would a watch be feminine?
Why is not the question with Arabic grammar, right? Why would a book be masculine, right? It has nothing to do with the inherent qualities of the object. It has to do with the linguistic qualities of the word. Sa'a is feminine because it ends with a ta marbuta.
I guess I was asking more like there's male watches, female watches. Would that even be relevant, or is a watch always going to be feminine?
Good. A watch is always going to be feminine. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, so it wasn't like the handbag thing. This was more of any watch, no matter what it was.
Yes, correct. Even haqiba with the haqiba is always feminine. It's never going to be haqiba, right? Where we switch it up is for titles and positions and things that have to do with people. So Muslim, muslimatun, right? Mu'min, mu'minatun. Things that can be either. As for non-human objects, nope, it's going to be one or the other. It's not going to have that ability to just tack on a ta marbuta. I can't take kitab and put kitabatun and make it a feminine book. Nope, book is always masculine, kitab. Right, so that's good. That's a very good question. Anything else? Okay, I'm going to erase this. And let's see. We have quite a bit more to go. So I'm in favor of pausing here, and we will try to finish this exercise next time. Anybody, any final questions, random questions, things you thought or heard or not clear from previous lessons? This is your chance. Meanwhile, yeah. great participation by everybody, great reading, great questions, and inshallah, the pace is nice. All right. Astawdiyakumullah. May Allah safeguard all of you, and we will see you next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.